It's Conduit News Radio with Paul Harrell.
Address. Some people were speculating, Congressman Crawford, that he was going to read from this memo, that was going to be released about what was going on with the FBI and the FISA application to what they're now saying, to essentially spy on the Trump campaign and everything else. He didn't do that, but later during the week he did declassify it, and now we know things. And you voted to declassify it, didn't you?
Yes, I did.
Well, so how what just kind of describe all that for us, and were you shocked to when you read that memo? Were you shocked at the abuses in the Obama administration?
Let me give you a little bit of a timeline here that sort of tees up why the memo was necessary. There was a several month period that where the Intelligence Committee, on which I sit, requested information from FBI and DOJ as we were involved in executing our duly appointed Russia investigation responsibilities. And FBI and DOJ refused to give us that information. Repeated requests, and they ignored those. We eventually had to subpoena that information. Then a Deputy Attorney General, Rod Rosenstein, decided it would be a good job to, upon receiving that subpoena, to go and talk to the Speaker of the House and do an end run around our committee, the requesting authority, and say, look, we really don't want to give this information up. Can you talk to the committee and have them drop this subpoena? And this is what I want people to understand. Speaker Ryan stood with us and for us and said, no, you're going to have to give up that information. I'm going to tell you, there's not a whole lot of speakers that would have done that. And he did it because he wanted to maintain the integrity of that committee and support the committee, and he does that. He's very supportive of the authority of committees. So this was the agreement. Rather than just bring the information forth, they said, well, this is really sensitive information, so we're going to set up a reading room over at DOJ and provide and allow limited access. So they put it in a SCIF over at DOJ, and the parameters were accepted that, we could have one member and two staff members go and view the material. So Chairman Devin Nunes appointed Trey Gowdy as our member, because Trey Gowdy is an accomplished former federal prosecutor, and who else would you rather have doing that?
Exactly.
He's phenomenal.
Yeah, exactly.
So he goes over there, used the documents along with two of our staff who are attorneys as well. And they come back and they draft this memo based on the contents of that of the material they saw. A 3.5-page memo where there were no pejoratives or adjectives or speculation or name calling or anything like that, but purely pointing out facts, period, end of story. There were no sources and methods, and there was no compromise of national security. Therefore, the committee voted along party lines to release that to the House members for their review, which we did. It stayed in the SCIF for a period of probably 10 days to allow members to review it. There were well over 200 Republican members that viewed it, and less than 50 Democrats that viewed it. Now, they all had an opinion on it, but only 50 of them took the trouble to come down and view it.
Wow.
Then we voted to send it to the president for his review and for his disposition in regards to declassification to make it public. He did that. It was viewed by the FBI. The FBI could not refute one single fact thematically or materially. It was accurate, and they knew it. They didn't want it out because it pointed to some individuals as some bad actors within their ranks, and that's why they didn't want it released, but they could not refute the accuracy or the validity thematically, materially, or otherwise. So that's why it was released, and that was the process we followed. Now, contrast that with the Democrats, who say, well, we want to put our material out. Well, there was nothing to stop them or prevent them from doing a memo either. They had the same access as we did, as I described it before. So what they came out with was a 10-page memo with 38 footnotes filled with pejorative and adjectives and name-calling and calling out people like Trey Gowdy, Devin Nunes, and President Trump. It was nothing more than a hit job pushing back against our fact-based memo, and deliberately written to include sources and methods, knowing that we would go through the same process to allow members to view it. Again, same process, and guess how many Democrats came and read it? Probably about the same number. Far more Republicans came down to read that memo as well. So the Democrats aren't really interested in reading what they're talking about. They just want to spout off opinions about it. So then we voted unanimously, the Republicans included, to release their memo to the membership. And then we voted, as Republicans and Democrats, all of us voted yes to release it to the president. Now, here's where things, get political. The memo was written politically. The memo was written for effect. The memo was deliberately included sources and methods, knowing that if it goes to the president for the same declassification as ours received, that he would have to redact it in order to declassify it. And he didn't play that game. We had the FBI and DOJ review it. The president looked at it and said, I'm not going to release this in its current form. The FBI has to make the determination of what's acceptable. There were some 47 items that would have required redaction and 17 others that were questionable. So basically what the president did was he took a red pen and said, hey, here's your English composition, circled all the mistakes on your rough draft, and to go back and do it again. And he didn't play the game. He beat them at their own game. What they wanted to do was for him to redact and send out there and say, see, he's got something to hide. That's what this whole memo on their part was about trying to set up the president to be someone and use that as an argument to buttress their, as evidence to buttress their argument for obstruction of justice. So it didn't work. Nobody's buying it. And if they want to make a statement to refute our memo, they're free to do that, but they've still got to follow the same classification guidelines and respect the sources and methods and all that kind of stuff, or it'll never see daylight in public.
This is a fantastic story. We're talking with Congressman Rick Crawford. He is a member of the House Permanent Select Committee on Intelligence, so that's why he has this integral knowledge of what took place in this timeline. And I would just say, the lead up to the release of the initial memo, the first one that was drafted by Congressman Nunes, you had Congressman Adam Schiff saying that the memo is going to reveal sources and methods. The memo's released; it clearly doesn't reveal sources and methods. But then their memo, actually, the one that they craft, does reveal sources and methods. I mean, that's the definition of hypocrisy.
Absolutely. They wanted redaction. They wanted the FBI to do redaction separately, and they wanted the president's legal team to do redaction separately so they could compare the two and say, look, see the president, he's trying to obstruct. It was politically cooked up idea. It was exposed for what it is. It's absolutely a travesty, and it shows that members on that committee under Adam Schiff's leadership have no interest in finding the truth. What they have an interest in is continuing to engage in this protracted investigation where we found no evidence to support their charges. And believe me, we have conducted a thorough investigation. Every time we bring up one of the witnesses that they request, they'll ask for two more. And to the point where it's ridiculous that, I mean, they might want to have, somebody that handled President Trump's bags in 2016.
Wow.
Because they might have overheard a conversation or something. I mean, it's that ludicrous.
So Congressman Crawford, we're also told that there may be more memos coming from this committee, maybe on the State Department. Is that true? Is that accurate? Do you expect that to happen?
I'm not sure. Yes, but there is a more fulsome representation forthcoming on the extent to which the previous administration was involved in activities relating to this topic. So when we talk about Russia collusion, yes, we have discovered Russia collusion. That Russia collusion exists within the Hillary for America campaign, the DNC, and many of her associates. We know, and it's been acknowledged by at least one of the members on the House Intelligence Committee, one of my colleagues on the committee, acknowledged unequivocally that, yes, the DNC and Hillary for America paid for the information about the Trump dossier, how it materialized, who shared it, with whom, and a lot of other details that will become public at some point in time. But yes, this is not what you would expect, and it's certainly not the effect that the folks that screamed for a Russia investigation. Okay, just be careful what you wish for.
Yeah.
Is all I'm saying.
They did not think that this was going to happen. It's unbelievable.
Right, and that's the fundamental core of this investigation. That doesn't even address the Uranium One issue, which is also another Russia scandal, which involves the Clintons. So, I mean, that's a separate issue that will require further investigation, but not in this context of the election. That's a separate issue. But again, you want to talk about Russia collusion, the Clinton campaign, and all the Clintonites that over many years are neck deep in it.
Wow. Congressman Rick Crawford